Hello and welcome to the Strategic Bookkeeper podcast. So today's podcast episode, I will be sharing something that I've never ever shared publicly. I even had to listen to the episode myself to make sure I was comfortable with it. I am going to thank a bookkeeper for an email that I got from her asking me a couple of simple questions. When I read that email, I was like, oh, my gut told me that there is some real gold I can share with her, with everyone all around the world. So what I'm going to do in this episode is we're going to talk about first 2 years in practice so that if you are first 2 years in, you can think about that. But if you're like me and 15 years in, you're going to get to reflect. It's exactly what I've done. I'm going to share with you the 5 definitive ways to build audience. And what I mean by build audience, because if you said that to me years and years ago, I would have been, what? Why do I need an audience? What's that? But what I mean is the 5 ways to find people who you can nurture to become clients. Okay, so we're going to give you those. Then I'm going to reduce that to the 3 that you need to focus on. I'm going to explain the one that this particular bookkeeper has used to build her practice. And then I realized, reflecting, it was exactly what I did. I'm going to show you the next level from that and exactly what you should do to turbocharge that, and just share with you some awesome things to move the needle in your practice. And I'm going to give you 3 resources, all because this amazing bookkeeper sent me 2 emails, okay? And a little lesson there, if you want some help in your bookkeeping practice, even if you're not inside my tribe, you could send me an email and you could ask me some questions. Now, I'm a busy lady like all the busy ladies out there. So if I don't get back to you in 2 seconds, my assistant will let me know, Jeannie, you've got to attend to an email, and then I will look at your email. I will give it a lot of time and energy, and I will generally answer all your questions in a podcast episode like this, but you'll get the raw audio immediately as a response and so on. So please do feel free to email me anything with an open heart and an open mind so I can support you, okay? So how about we jump into the episode? I'm excited about this one. I'm Jeannie Savage, the Strategic Bookkeeper. I've been in practice for 14 years, but more importantly, 5 years in, I achieved a lifestyle practice. This means I scaled my business, could take my hands off the wheel, and draw a nice 6-figure income while being time rich. And that's what I call my dream on my terms. I was recently awarded Women in Finance Innovator of the Year, recognizing my book, my podcast, my program, and my impact globally. The Strategic Bookkeeper is my life's work, and the opportunity to help bookkeepers globally achieve the income and lifestyle that sets them free absolutely fills my cup. Please do connect with me on socials at the Strategic Bookkeepers Way private Facebook group, or shoot me an email, hello@thestrategicbookkeeper.global. Okay, so our wonderful bookkeeper, who I'll call Diane, I think that's what I called her in the last episode, sent me another email, and I really feel like it's an opportunity to share a few additional things. So the holistic bookkeeper, because the question's really simple, but I want to really share with Diane some things she might not be thinking about. I feel like there's some opportunities here. So let's dive into the email so I can share some really, really cool things that will absolutely help you do better in your bookkeeping practice. And as I share them, I am thinking of the 6 pillars of persuasion, which I'll be talking about in my upcoming book. I will do my best to get a podcast out on those as well. So holistically, I really want to dive into Diane, the kind of practice she's running, a few things she's told me, and some advice I'd like to give her, okay? Some recommendations, some direction and redirection. That's my job at the Strategic Bookkeeper, okay? It's not to turn up and be fluffy and general and kind of make soft suggestions. I'm much more like a doctor. Like, I really want to listen to you, listen to my bookkeepers, my tribe, to understand what's going on for you professionally, personally, to understand how you're different to other people, to look at your bookkeeping practice, to listen to what you're doing right and what you're doing that's not serving you, okay? and then to tell you point blank, black and white, what you need to really do and stop doing to send you in the right direction, to send you in the direction will take you to income, to time, to purpose, to joy. Okay. So inside my tribe, for example, all of my tribe are really used to me being like this. And I'm so grateful that they thank me for it, because showing up in this way, showing up in a way where I'm very direct, you could say that I can be a little bossy, always kind, always well-mannered, but I show up in a way where I don't mess around and I'm very clear. In fact, recently I said to one of the bookkeepers in my tribe that I felt she was making a critical mistake in her business, and that while she continued to do that thing, I didn't feel like anything else would really make a difference. And it was really hard for her to hear. And I don't have to say that, right? I can be softly and say, well, I think you might be making a mistake. And we were talking about that mistake, and she kind of said, yeah, I think I'll just keep going and doing that thing. And I said, no, stop for a minute. I'm going to sit on this and I'm going to really hammer it home, okay? Because I take my role as a leader very, very seriously, and something that I giggle a little bit, because something I say privately at home to myself is that I lead like Joan of Arc. Okay. So when I get this email from Diane and she's telling me all the things, I want to tell you all the things. I want to tell you where she's at, because I'm sure you'll be able to relate to some of it. And then I want to give clear, direct advice, recommendations, direction, and redirection. And if you work with me, this is what you can expect. Okay. You can expect me to really give you advice, because you know what? That's what you need. You need your coach who's been there, done that, to show up, step up, and tell you exactly what you need to do. And you know what? When you work with me, that's what happens. Okay, so with all that said, so Diane is here in Australia. As I always say, I serve bookkeepers everywhere, but Diane's in Australia. She's in a regional area. Now, she was saying in this email, so she's 2 years into her bookkeeping practice with lots to learn. So my question to you listening to this podcast is, how far into your practice are you? If you are more than 2 years, do you remember the 2-year mark? If you are less than 2 years, how are you feeling? Often in that first 2 years, there can be excitement, there can be lots of positive thinking that if we just keep going and if we keep bringing on clients and increasing our revenue, eventually everything's going to work out, right? Because in that first 2 years, the truth is there is so much we don't know. I'm thinking back to my first 2 years because I was pregnant when I started my bookkeeping practice. So my first 2 years, my son was very little. When he was born, I kind of took a bit of time off because my first client that I had was a big public company I've been working for, and they asked me to keep working for them with them while I was pregnant. So what I did is I kind of just started my own gig, so to speak, and that became my first client. I took a bit of a break after I had my son, but it was GFC. So I didn't get to take much of a break because I lay in bed at night thinking about the 2 mortgages we had. Interest rates were going up. I had to live off, well, my husband and I, and he didn't know. I didn't want to stress him out. So being the finance one, I was basically living out of our overdraft. So I was paying our investment property mortgage with an overdraft. So we were literally going backwards and it was very nerve-wracking. So I took some time off, but then I kind of had to get an au pair and I had to go back to work. And the first client that I found was one of the franchises. So I worked for the public company that at the time had a range of brands, including Baskin Robbins, and one of the Baskin Robbins ice cream stores, because I knew all of them, said, could you do our bookkeeping for 2 stores? So it became my first client. So I'm just thinking back for a moment to my first 2 years. And I'm remembering that first meeting with them where I went out to see them locally, because this bookkeeper, Diane's talking to me about the fact that local work has fallen into her lap. Yeah. And I'm trying to connect to that. And I'm saying, okay, I remember at the beginning of my journey, first client was someone I worked for that became a client. The second client was someone I was connected to in that way that knew my work. And it was all local, right? I mean, back then it was all local. And I remember that first meeting, and something I've never ever shared publicly is that at that first meeting, I think, did I know? Did I not know? I don't think I knew at the time. No, I absolutely did not. Remembering back, I had postnatal depression. So it was about 5 months after my son was born. And I was just feeling a lot of anxiety, like racked with anxiety. I was losing a lot of weight. I was, just feeling all the things. And what I didn't know is that I had postnatal depression. Now, I'm digressing a bit, but sometimes it's nice to just, I guess, share where we were at. We're talking about our first 2 years in practice. And you know what I find when I talk to women all over the world, and in terms of why I went into this in the first place, like why I developed the Strategic Bookkeeper, it was to support women globally, to support mums globally that I thought might be going through similar things to me. And what I've found when I've connected with women is it's this me too, Jeannie. Like I've been going through all the things that you went through too. So I guess I share that in a way to say, if you've been through that, if you're going through that, if you're feeling really anxious and you had a baby 6 months ago, I was there, and my practice is 15 years old now. My beautiful 14-year-old son is still in bed right now. It's school holidays, but even when it's not, he goes to school at home because, as most of you know, I had an extraordinary special needs child. Now, back to Diane's story. So she's 2 years in, and thinking about my first 2 years. So remembering that client I got, and then I think within the first couple of years, I started to get busy with, yes, all local work. And then I got a friend to come help me. I was just billing out hourly. And you know what I thought? I thought, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. If I just keep finding new clients and charging them out what feels like a good hourly rate and then getting people to do the work for me, I'm going to knock it out of the ballpark. This is going to be amazing. And it's what a lot of us think in the first 2 years, right? And it was far from amazing. I mean, I got a quick word on how to work with me. You can join the waitlist for the Strategic Bookkeeper Transformation Program, which is a world-class, world first, described by members as mind-blowing, which typically pays for itself within a month and has a full money-back guarantee. Simply go to thestrategicbookkeeper.global/waitlist. I also have a pricing academy with a calculator and my entire suite of productized services, plus other courses and resources on my website. Email me if you have any questions, okay? I mean, I got years in and we were getting busier and the revenue was going up, and everyone was kind of saying, wow, this is great, you're busy. And I was saying, yeah, I'm busy, and, we're generating heaps of work. But the truth is that if you lifted the lid on my bookkeeping practice, the profit just wasn't going up commensurate with the revenue, especially when you start bringing on staff, okay? And when you're charging hourly, you find yourself kind of doing that quick query free work, that. So depending on where you're at in your practice, you might be like, oh, that's happening to me. Or you might be thinking, I remember when that used to happen, right? So Diane is in that first 2 years. And I love that she says, with lots to learn, okay? Because that's saying I'm open. The next thing she says is, I totally agree that to service clients that are only within my region would be a limiting view and limiting business model. So that's 100% correct. So the first thing I want to recommend to everyone is that you embrace the economic, tech, and consumer landscape that we are currently in and absolutely serve clients far and wide. That is my recommendation to you. The digital age allows us to do that now, okay? Now, Diane says currently 90% of my clients are within my region, which has come about really just due to knowing people in the community and not as yet having the resources in place to stretch further. So our first 2 years in practice, can you relate to that? Because in my bookkeeping practice blueprint, I share with you the 5 definitive ways that you should be focusing on finding clients. And 2 of them, we don't try at home without parental supervision, I call, which is paid and summits. So the other 3 that definitively are the 5% activity that will give you 95% of the result, okay, is your existing network, like your existing database, and then structured business networking like BNI, Business Networking International, and partnership marketing, which I call evergreen advocacy partnerships. And I had a bookkeeper, Karen Andrews, on my podcast not so long ago, who, when she joined the program, she said she was able to see that she grew her entire practice to 800,000 revenue a year with EAP, evergreen advocacy partnerships. Okay, so partnership marketing is so powerful that if you're able to focus on it and get it right, it can be just the one primary audience building strategy that you need. That's how you find people, those 5 ones I just told you about, but then you have to engage them, and that's product ladder and database, okay? And then we have to do business development activity. And what I'll do is I'll drop a link to our bookkeeping practice blueprint in here for you, okay? And actually, I might drop a link for you into 2 trainings that we will have done recently by the time I record this podcast. So I'll drop a link to the 7 steps to a thriving practice and also the small but mighty blueprint, because when I just touched on that, then if you're listening going, I want to know more, I'll give you those resources so that you can find out a bit more, okay? And hopefully Diane's coming to my events. I only run these kind of events 3 times a year. So if you want to know when my free training events are on, please just get on our mailing list. And the best way to do that is to go to the strategicbookkeeper.global and sign up for the freebie that we have on our homepage, okay? So what I want you to ask yourself is, can you relate to Diane, and can you kind of forensically dissect the success that you've had to date? Because Diane is saying there, and it's so important that we understand these things. We understand how we're getting traction in our bookkeeping practice. And I love helping you with that. I love putting the science and the data behind what you're doing. Okay. So she said that basically, in my terms, it's like, okay, well, her existing networking that is giving her the clients so far. So her audience strategy has been existing network. And I love this. I want to tell Diane and tell everyone what we're going to do. Think of that network and those clients that we've got like seeds that we've planted in fertile ground to use to grow beautiful big fruit trees that will feed us, okay? So in terms of what I love about Diane's situation, because I'm looking at her website as well, is that she's 2 years in. She knows she's got lots to learn. She's reached out to me, right? Do you know what? I love the show Ted Lasso on Netflix. And there's something that one of the characters says right towards the end of the season. And he says, I think all we can do is to continue to ask for help and accept it when it's offered. It just, like, I've got shivers even saying it. And I notice that a lot of humans, they don't like asking for help. And then even when it's offered, they don't accept it. And Diane sent me an email, yeah? And she's asked me questions. She's asking for help. And then when I'm giving it, she's accepting it. So some of these tiny little things that might sound like, how is that a big deal? It's a really big deal, okay? So I love that her website at this stage is just a holding place, because then I'm not kind of looking at a website going, oh, there's a lot to it, but it needs to be completely redone. And that she's just got this chapter of clients locally. They're all really happy. And we've got this foundation from which to build. So the first thing is I absolutely want Diane in my program because I want to give her all the things to make it easier. Okay, absolutely I do. But moving on from that, basically, I just want to point out to Diane and to everyone that once you've got 1 client, 2 clients, 3 clients, etc., like Diane has built from her existing network, okay, it's really important. If you have a look at my book, it's really important to use my book to build out things like results-based marketing, okay? I was talking to a bookkeeper recently inside my tribe who hadn't built that out yet, and a prospective client said, I can't see your reputation online. like you have no reputation. And I can tell you that building Google reviews is so critically important. So I'm going to say to Diane right now, if you don't have Google My Business, then you absolutely need it right now. It's the next thing to do listening to this podcast because it's so easy to set up. And I just had a look and Diane doesn't. And I know she didn't ask me this question, but I am the holistic bookkeeper. Okay. And I felt like, oh, there's some gold in here I can share with everyone. So we've got clients and we can absolutely set up Google My Business or I think they just call it Google Business these days. And then we can go about the work to get the reviews off the clients. Hot tip, write the review yourself. You know exactly what your client will say about you. You need to save them time and money. Write the review for them, send an email, ask them if they're happy with your service, would they consider leaving you a review, and build those reviews and have a strategy to do that moving forward. I can tell you that I have won so much work and ended up with daily inquiries off my Google reviews alone. And this is a part of marketing layering that you must do. The next thing I'm going to suggest to Diane is that she bites the bullet and contacts Biz Inc. I'll drop a link into the Biz Inc. contact, right, at the website. Now, if you contact Biz Inc. and you mention our name, I'm going to go ahead and recommend to Diane and every single bookkeeper all over the world that you just need to bite the bullet and get a Biz Inc. website. Now, if you are inside our tribe, we have a special non-disclosure agreement with Biz Inc. and they have a website template which includes all of our high power intellectual property, competitive advantage, product ladder, lead magnets, etc. So the website you get when you're with us is pretty turbocharged. One of the reasons I want Diane in that program, okay? But even if you're not inside of our program, Biz Inc. is the absolute freaking business. I mean, a friend of mine who's in Fin Services, I got Biz Inc. to whip him up the most incredible website within actually 48 hours, calling in a bit of a favor because even though they primarily do, like almost only do accountants and bookkeepers, seriously, Biz Inc. is the business. If you don't have a Biz Inc. website for your bookkeeping practice, you are missing out, okay? So I'll just let you know that because the opportunity that exists for Diane, she says she loves that my last response was jogging us all out of playing small. So I love that. But we do want to be small but mighty, okay? And there's a good reason for that. And you'll learn about that in the free training I'm going to drop into the show notes. Hot tip on my free trainings, listen to them like they're podcasts, okay? You're a busy multitasking mama like me, right? I don't expect you to go to your computer and find extra hours to sit and watch some training. So listen to them podcast style, okay? So if Diane takes what she's built so far, this chapter of local clients, she gets a world-class website from Biz Inc., even more so if she's coming into our program, okay? And then she builds out that Google business and she puts the effort in to get all her reviews in. So she's got a whole lot of 5-star reviews. Then she's so primed to start getting work nationally rather than locally, okay, which she's absolutely open to doing. It's just that per those 3 main areas out of the 5 areas that definitively is how bookkeepers will find the audience they nurture to become clients, she's used the one around existing network. Ideal, perfect, love it, but I'm putting the science and data there, okay? Now, I will say to Diane and everyone else, you must use my book to build out profile, results-based marketing, and all the other things which inside my program, and I know when you listen to this, the doors might be closed. You can get on the wait list, join us next time we open. But inside the program, all of this is world-class done for you. Now, the next question, and well, the questions that Diane really has that has taken me 22 minutes to answer in this podcast, we're going to get on to now. But I really think that, like Diane says, lots to learn. She's going to be really open to this podcast I sent her. Just so you know, if you send me questions, you get the raw podcast recording that I do immediately. So you don't have to wait for it to be published. Okay. So if you don't ask, you don't get. And when you ask me a question, I really do help you. So I'm going to read directly from the email here. So my question was more, do you think that if you are serving regional areas that there are economic factors in that area that will influence the price? And do I think, for example, where on the Gold Coast has an elevated price? Well, I'll just go to the Gold Coast first. I don't think about the Gold Coast because I don't ever think about the area that they're in. To me, it's irrelevant, which kind of answers the question above. And actually, it's really interesting because when Diane goes into these, right, we're talking price, 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 whereas we need to be thinking about outcomes. So to me, my price is irrelevant. And to my clients, my price is irrelevant. No matter where you live, whether you're in, let's say, you're on the Sunshine Coast, or I'll go different areas of Australia. Let's say you are in the Blue Mountains of Sydney. Let's say you are in a beautiful place called Olinda in Victoria, or Rye in Victoria. I grew up in Victoria. Or you're in a central Melbourne CBD. Realistically, I could add economic factors anywhere. I could say, well, the cost of living is more in the middle of Sydney and therefore we've got no more money to spend on bookkeeping. I could say, well, we're in a regional area and there's less jobs. And, so none of this matters. The answer to this is none of this stuff matters, because at the end of the day, what I work with you to charge out, it's not like I show you how to charge fees so that you're making some kind of super profits. I show you the formula to make sure that you can build a thriving practice. So that's oxygen in your business. But I show you how to focus on the benefits and the outcomes, because that's what your clients want. So where Diane is asking me about regional areas and economic factors, we're talking about the long haul flight, not the destination, right? So even if you are serving clients in your local area, you actually can't think about price, because at the end of the day, as I said in the last episode, as at the 25th of September 2024, you need to be charging out in Australia, for example, about $100 an hour in your calculator, or your business is going to fold, right? Like, it's quite black and white. If it doesn't fold, you'll be the one with economic problems, because you will be earning less than you could in a decent job. And you might be like I was in my first 2 years when I told you that started to happen to me, but I didn't tell anyone. There's a shame that goes with that. Yeah. Then within 5 years, I had skyrocketed and fixed all those problems. Okay. And now I teach others. But we shouldn't be thinking about price and charge out rates. We should be thinking about benefits and outcomes. And at the end of the day, businesses and business owners, they are the experts in what they do. It's their job to go to market and to, sell products and services in a way that creates profit. It's their job to look at the capital they need in their business in order to obtain the things they require, which includes a strategic bookkeeper. Okay. So I would say the answer to that question around economic factors is we're looking at the wrong thing. You don't look at the economic factors. And it's like when I hear bookkeepers say, this client, they've really got no money and I feel sorry for them and I feel like I should be doing this, that, and the other thing. Okay. That is not going to serve them. And it's not going to serve you. So if you take that approach and you do like cheap and free stuff, or run up accounts for them. I've just seen a bookkeeper end up with $30,000 in arrears that she'll never get back. If you do all these things, you will suffocate your business. You will suffocate yourself. Your business will end up sick. You will end up sick and you won't serve anyone, okay? And I will also say that look at what I do in my bookkeeping practice, all right? I don't think about where they're located. Yes, I've got tons of local clients. Most of our clients, because I've been running 15 years, exist locally, but we have clients in other areas of Australia, right? But I actually don't look at where they are. Yeah. So it doesn't factor in where they are. You can live in a regional area and be making millions and millions of dollars, or live in a city area and be getting all the things in your business wrong and be making no money. These regional area factors are a complete non-event. Don't think about these, but also stop thinking about price and things like this and think about outcomes. We're here to help our entrepreneurs do better in business. Look at the things that they need for that. There is a normal fee structure attached to that, and that's what you need to present. It's up to them to think about the capital that they need and running their business properly so the profit is there. All things that we can help entrepreneurs with, okay? So the next question is, do you think that if you can convert your client to a raving fan, the service location / economy becomes irrelevant? Correct. It's completely irrelevant. The service location, the economic factors, all these things are completely irrelevant, okay? The country that you live in, and for example, in Australia, we have various wonderful professional bodies, and I'm going to just quote the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers here and mention that they give us rates where they say, look, this is the bare ass minimum you need to look at charging to be running a viable business, okay? So in your country, there's all these different economic factors that are going to influence your business, okay? But absolutely, location and economy becomes irrelevant. It's just the overall business. Okay, so the last thing that Diane says is, my last thought is, if the regional area does impact on price, I'm definitely moving to service out of local area. So exactly, don't even think of local area. So where Diane's at 2 years in, and like this beautiful open book, like just ready to learn, ready to absorb. And I feel like absolutely coming into my program, I so need her in there. But where she's at, I want to help Diane and help you make an ideology shift where, rather than thinking about the location they're in, like, to be honest, when a prospective client calls me, I don't ask where they're located. I work in a global economy. Okay, I embraced global economy, global tech, economic and consumer landscape a very long time ago. Okay, I've got team all over the world. I had someone reach out from a country that was around like the Caribbean and asked me for bookkeeping. And I said, is that going to work with the tax system? And he explained it would work. I'm happy to do quotes for those people. It really interested me. I was like, wow, okay. But I don't think about location whatsoever. If they're local, fantastic. If they're not, fantastic. It doesn't bother me, okay? But I will say to Diane, and I will say to you, that existing network is one of the 3 primary keys that I need you to nail in the first year with me. Okay, I need you to absolutely nail it and get like some of my tribe members where they're on 12-week wait list based on these 3 things. Okay, because remember, there were 5 things, but there's 3. Existing network, like existing database, networking, and partnership marketing that I call EAPs. So what I want to say to Diane is, she's leveraged this like local existing network. Keep doing it. This is one of the things. Keep doing it. But I just think of it as, okay, this is what's happening here. Now I'm going to take the seeds of what I've done with this number 1 first strategy. This is like the number 1 thing you should be leveraging to find audience, to nurture through to clients, exactly like Diane has. So now I've done this, I'm going to plant those seeds in fertile ground. I am going to get a world-class website through BizInc. I'm going to join Jeannie's program because that's going to make it all easier, okay? But she's going to plant these seeds in fertile ground. I'm going to go and get all my Google reviews. That's going to feature through my website. This is all going to build out exactly what I need for national clients to want to work with me over my competitors without price as a priority. Okay, that's exactly what you need. I remember years ago, it must have been around the time of COVID, because COVID did what we call a massive shift in consumer behavior. I speak on a topic called the post-pandemic shift in consumer behavior, right? And I remember someone from Melbourne calling, and they had read all about us, read all about everything we do. And she said, I don't care where you are. It looks like you're the best and I want to work with the best. Okay. So this is the kind of thing that we want Diane to experience and we want you to experience. Okay. So that is a wrap on this very long podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode. Okay, my friend, now it is time to take action. So what are you going to do with what you learned today? The way I see it, you've got 2 options. You can go it alone to try and save some money, or you can back yourself and go for it and join my tribe. And let me tell you, we are knocking it out of the ballpark. That's not a sales pitch. That is me serving you, dare I say, courageously. To find success, I 100% know you need the mechanics, which is like the keys to the kingdom, but you also need to get your mindset right and be super productive. And these are all things I help you with inside the program. I could go on about this forever because I really want this for you. Have a prosperous week, and I'll see you in the next episode.